Hello, my name is Ethan Merriweather, and we welcome you to the Journey Enhancement YouTube channel. Once again, my name is Ethan Merriweather, and we're so glad that you found our YouTube channel. I would like to introduce you to Rich Wiehe, the founder of Journey Enhancement. But first, let's talk about Rich. Rich is a proven leader who has provided a history of eliminating problems through trustworthy relationships, exceptional communication, motivation, influence, inspiration, training, and team building. His extraordinary people skills are called upon in demanding situations to facilitate conversations that provoke curiosity, learning, discovery, problem solving, and change. From Pop Warner football and Little League baseball through high school athletics and leadership achievement, Rich has significantly challenged with a reading disorder causing serious academic challenges from childhood and beyond. He continued to develop his leadership, communication, and people skills, serving our country as a sergeant, combat infantry in Vietnam. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
When he returned home from Vietnam, Rich entered the corporate environment. He started out in an entry-level position with a soon-to-be Fortune 500 company. Then continued to develop his corporate endeavor, managing and leading in one of the largest, most hostile, labor-intensive operations, overseeing 750 employees. Upon successfully achieving that challenging corporate endeavor, Rich was selected to assist in facilitating the culture change for the entire, now Fortune 500 organization of approximately 3,000 people. Upon his departure from that industry in 1996, Rich established his endeavor of Journey Enhancement as he continues to coach, mentor, and facilitate people, teams, and organizations today.
I want to thank Ethan because I've been involved with developing the Journey Enhancement work, curriculum, and training possibilities for about 30 years. And it's always been my desire to find an audience that was truly curious about the work that I've done, how it came to materialize, and how it could be effective, if not for them, for other people they might know. I'm truly very interested in learning, growing, understanding. I love problem solving, and I often tell people that I believe that there isn't any problem that we can't solve. So, Ethan, I'll kind of let you take it from there and ask me the kind of questions you think are appropriate for where we're headed.
All right. I wanted to just mention that about Rich, right? This is very important for us to understand and realize his passion, not only from his life, but what has transpired from his youth all the way until now. And I know that Journey Enhancement, which intrigued me, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to work with Rich, was about asking those questions that he was talking about. And I think that Rich's approach to asking the right questions allows us to go down this journey to resolve either the problem or the gaps that you have for the answer. What I would like to do is talk about journey enhancement and some of the main areas of interest and experience. Number one is understanding yourself and others. Rich, can we talk about that?
I can. As a matter of fact, at the very beginning of any endeavor that I do with people or organizations, is we have been certified and trained to do the what we call the by personality insights in Atlanta, Georgia. We call it the model of human behavior, and we use what is known as the DISC personality assessment and the material that goes with that. And what that assessment does, it helps us to understand the way that we're wired. There's about a 20-minute self-assessment that people take, and based on the way that they answer the questions about themselves, it reveals the way that their personalities are wired. And there are 4 styles of personality. Not to get into the real detail of everything, but there is a style where the D person is a person that's highly driven, that loves to be in charge. They're usually very competitive. They don't like to be told what to do, but these are the people that wind up really being in control in most environments. And oddly, it represents only about 10% of population. There's the next category is what we call the I personality style. And the I personality style is a person that loves a lot of activity. They enjoy being the center of attention. They get bored very easy. They like to talk a lot, and they like bright colors. They're rather charismatic right to begin with. And what's interesting about that particular personality style, while they get bored easy, we need to remember that when those people embark on an assignment, they generally will lose interest quickly, and sometimes they're great starters and just terrible finishers. But when we know this about them, it helps us to understand the most appropriate environment to put them in. The next one is the C personality style. And that person is all about perfection. That's the person that dots the I's, crosses the T's, is very, very astute in listening and articulating their thoughts. And they could be very critical thinkers. We had, in my experience, we actually had a person that was what we call a high C. And they were explaining that they were going through a book that they purchased, and when they found a mistake in the book, a grammatical mistake, they put the book down and wouldn't finish reading it. That's how critical they can become. And but again, each one of these personality styles has a lot more to talk about. I'm just giving you the basics right now. And then the S person is a person that is shy, very much to themselves. They do not like you to call on them in a crowd. However, they are extremely supportive people. The biggest challenge that they have is they can't say no, and they will basically do whatever anyone else wants them to do because they're truly people pleasers.
That's interesting.
That's the basics, okay? So that's where we begin. And there's so much more that we do in our endeavors that I'll let you kind of go through where you're curious about what we've been doing and take it from there if you could.
When you are called, because you don't necessarily go to a company and say, hey, do you have any issues? Do you have any problems to solve?
Right.
You're normally contacted by someone.
Yes, that has worked. It's really, that's another interesting point. Since we started this venture of, originally I called our business Coaching by Rich. And then I think about 5 years ago, I decided to really, when I thought about what we were doing, we were truly enhancing the journey of the people and the organizations that we were being a part of. And I thought Journey Enhancement would be a really good name. And I thought there's no way that wouldn't be taken. So I contacted a friend of mine and I said, find out if Journey Enhancement is available on the web. And it was. So we grabbed it and we converted from Coaching by Rich to Journey Enhancement. And that's kind of how we got the ball rolling in that regard. One of the things that you mentioned is the way we go about responding to and asking questions. But before I get into that, I wanted to explain how our business actually has come to be. Back when we started, it was right after I was downsized out of the corporate world, and I was trying to get something started again. And a friend of mine, a church friend, knew that I had a lot of corporate experience, and he was about to start a business called Comfort Keepers. And he asked me, he says, "You've had some corporate experience. Do you think that you could help me get our business started?" Now, this was the very, very beginning of the venture. I had no idea how this was going to unfold. I just knew that I had experience, and if I could utilize that experience to help him, I would. And that was a successful start. I worked with them for a while. I helped them hire people and, help them to understand some of the issues that needed to be confronted and resolved. And that was the beginning. And then what happened is he referred me to a financial planner. And then, I don't remember the sequence of events completely, but I think there are either 48 or 50 relationships that we post on our website. And every single one of those relationships was a result of somebody that we had experience with, explained it to someone else what our gifts and talents would be. And it just continues to go that way. And it's still going that way today.
I think that when you and I met, we met through a mutual friend, and I think that it was a Sunday service, right? And what Rich, he was placed up there to speak, and it really intrigued me. And I can't remember what document you used.
Well, I was trying to think if you might have attended. I did a leadership class. And it wasn't really about people skills, and I don't know if you were a part of it or heard some of that, but apparently you were impressed enough to say, I want to know more.
Oh, yeah.
And typically what happens with the relationships that I've had and maintained is there's an ongoing process of learning with people that are truly wanting to learn. Where I don't place myself is in environments where people know they need to be different, but yet they're unwilling to change.
Yeah.
I like to make it really clear up front that we're going to recognize things that may be uncomfortable to deal with. But one of the things I've been able to do is to know how to confront those issues in such a way that people become very comfortable in talking and relating to one another to get by the issues.
To me, I really believe this. For a Journey Enhancement is an entrepreneurial business or company, right? I've worked for large companies. I still work for a large company, but I think that there is a sense of entrepreneurship that is ideal for all of us humans, right? Working for somebody I'm not knocking it. It's not a bad thing, but there is a liberty and a freedom to going out there, taking the skills that you've developed over the years and able to help someone else be successful in their endeavors. To me, it's nothing like it.
You're right. And here's what you really have identified. One of the things that I learned when I had to start a new career at age 52, I had been in a corporate environment for 25 years, and I was really pretty good at what I did. I was always in a leadership role. I was very well respected, and I was able to develop a lot of trust with the people that we worked with. And however, in the corporate environment, there was always political aspects of the environment where I would have to compromise something that was important to me for the sake of retaining my career. I just couldn't walk away.
Understood.
So when I got downsized out of that environment, one of the things that I told my wife immediately, I said, she was a little upset at the time, but I was actually looking forward to it. I said, one of the things that we're going to do as we move forward is we're not going to compromise anymore, and we're going to select people and environments that we truly enjoy working with. And we've been able to do that. Now, the point I want to make is we did that becoming a business owner. It does not mean that you can't do that when you're working for someone else.
Nice.
What's important when we work for other people is, number one, we need to make sure going in that their value system is consistent with our value system. We have to recognize truly, and I actually ask people this when I interview them, what are 3 things you're absolutely unwilling to compromise? And if we would make those declarations clear when we start in any endeavor, it keeps us away from having to compromise. So the whole key is to be able to put ourselves in a position where we're not compromising what's really important to us, whether you own your own business or whether you're simply working in a business that you don't own.
That speaks volumes. And I believe that those 3 things, how did you say, what are the 3 things that you're not willing to?
I asked, what are 3 things you're absolutely unwilling to compromise?
I think that is a very important question to ask. That's one of those questions that I've been talking about, like where you gather from Rich, is asking these questions. Because I think that a question it motivates action, right? It
does.
And it doesn't allow you to stay stagnant, right? A question actually creates an individual's way of looking at things. And I think that that's very important, because what we've been accustomed to do, if that's the right word to use, is believe every word of someone instead of taking a step back and really asking yourself the question is, what am I becoming with this way of thinking or this question that I'm being asked, right? When you ask the question about not willing to compromise.
Right.
I think that's very, very important.
Yes,
right?
It is. That's the backbone of who we are. Now, what's interesting, when I ask that question, and hold on, because this is what really happens. I'll ask the question, and the first thing that happens is people just stare at me. See, I don't know how many people have ever been asked that question before, but you would think that you would know immediately what the absolutes are. Now, it could be because in the process of an interview, people are trying to say, I wonder what he wants me to say, and be looking internally for the right answer. But I am surprised that when I ask that question, how few people will immediately rattle off. And I ask for 3 to 5 things.
Interesting.
And I would say that 3 times out of 4, people need help to get to those things.
Wow.
Yeah, it's it's concerning to me.
I do have, so you say it's concerning, right? Is the concern based off of if people are just running autopilot?
Well,
is that kind of what it is,
The way that it's concerning to me, I wonder is why is it, and this is my thought, what is it that is causing them to not be able to come up with 3 things that are truly important to them? Like, I'm sure that, to me, it's really simple. It's my faith, my family, my country, and then I could go on and on and on. But, I was listening to a pastor yesterday, and on TV, Stephen Furtick, I think his name is, but he was talking about standards. And I thought, wow. I said that the way that he was talking about it made a tremendous amount of sense. And I thought, what are our personal standards? What is it about you or me that determines how we're going to be built and how we're going to operate? What are your personal standards? And I don't know if people think of that very often, but I know that when I was answering the question to myself, I knew what it was for me, but I'm also curious to know how many people really think about that. How many people today are trying to determine their standards on what's going on in the world versus what they were brought up to understand or what's biblically appropriate. So it's, it identifies to me the difference between people who are comfortable in who they are, what they believe, and what they stand for, versus the people that really don't know and are kind of lost and could be easily led one way or another.
So when you go into a facility and you ask those three questions, and you said it's like a deer, like look, a deer seeing headlights, they're stuck, boom, because they haven't really developed that area
right
in their mind of thinking, and then you kind of nurture them down the questioning path.
Well, I get called into environments for a few different reasons. One of the selling points that we have that I think has helped us a lot is when we talk about building a culture or refining a culture. And one of the what I look for is, can we determine what is important in the environment that we don't want to compromise? And when we start to build a culture and we do it with several people that are involved in the process, we try to find out, okay, what is it that's really important? And they'll come up with words. They'll come up with words like honesty, integrity, trust, okay, respect, responsibility, accountability, empowerment, things like that. They use these words, and what often happens is they don't all understand the definitions of those words the same way. So what happens is it could be immediately fragmented from the beginning.
Interesting.
And one of the things that I have done with those environments where we built culture is to create the statements of behavior that we want to portray. And then within the statements, we pick out the words that are the adjectives and attributes that are most important. And then I ask the team to come up with a definition of each of those words. And what that does, if you follow the process, it truly enhances communication as well.
Nice. So what you do is, is this leadership, management only, or is it employees as well?
It depends on the organization. Most of the time it involves at least the leader and his immediate group of influencers. However, it depends on the size of the organization. If there's just 15 people, you could do it with everybody.
Yeah.
But if we get 40 or 50 people, then you have to work it in such a way that you start delegating the responsibility of building this culture through the people that are gathering the information. What we want to occur is to have the people that are going to be in the environment own the behavior that they're declaring to be. So, once you say that responsibility and accountability are important, then I'm looking to understand, what does that mean? Yeah. What does it take to be accountable? What does it take to be responsible? And they come up with these definitions. So it is an excellent tool when we accomplish this, because what it does, if it is done honorably, once you have a written culture declaration in place and you have the attributes and adjectives defined, it makes it very easy to hold one another to account, because I'm not holding you accountable to me. I'm holding you accountable to the culture declaration that we built, which makes it, there's a big strength there. And it eliminates a little bit of pride and ego in terms of, you're just picking on me kind of thing. It also, people talk about fairness. Fairness to me is very, very difficult in an organization. But when you have a culture that defines everything clearly, it makes it very easy to understand when people are in violation. And it doesn't have to be through authority. It's because the behavior that they proclaim, they wrote down, they understand.
That's good.
And now it's not happening. So the question is, what do we do? Do we change the proclamation or do we change the behavior? It works.
I love that. I think that the approach to asking everyone, what it is it fair to say that what you do is vet them by asking them Since you use these words in your declaration, right?
Right.
I want to get everyone that's underneath this declaration to tell me what that means.
Yeah, what happens typically is, let's take a word like respect.
Okay.
And we're asking for the team to give us a brief definition of the word respect. So what they do is they collaborate. We may have, let's say we took 5 people and said, okay, it's your responsibility to define respect. Well, those 5 people together will create a sentence. And that sentence is then put before the group and say, are you guys happy with this? Is this yet? And it goes that way. So we're basically creating our own interpretation of the words that are supporting our behavior. And I think that's I did that with all my work, by the way.
Yeah, so that's a part
that is to me, I know how it works because it has worked personally.
So with Journey Enhancement, is there a typical process that you go through?
Oh, gracious,
can you please help the audience understand Journey Enhancement's process? Is it a checklist, or what is your process when you first walk into an establishment?
Okay, here's how it begins. I'll take you from the very, very beginning, and I'll try to. There's a lot to it, meaning that we're going to embark in an environment where the objective is to discover things that will identify potential or to identify obstacles and barriers. So to begin with, here's how it starts. Usually somebody will contact me and ask me if I could send them something that gives an idea of what we do. And I typically say that's not the way we do it. What I like to do is meet with the individual or individuals face to face for 10 minutes.
Okay.
That's what I tell them. And I said, we will have a conversation and you're going to explain to me what you want me to understand so that I might be able to help you. And in that conversation, I determine whether or not I feel I have the skill set to go into the environment and help them. And I usually have documentation with me that, I have letters of endorsement and things like that, but I rarely have to use them, to be very honest with you. So what happens is they're looking for something that they don't know how to do on their own. And the possibility for me is to help them to find it. And I'm good at that. Now, I have developed many different kinds of assessments that will help me to take the next step. Some of them are geared on a personal level. Some of them are geared on a leadership level. There are probably, I would say, off the top of my head, I could think of, I'm going to say 7 to 10 assessments that I've used in the past. The other thing that I have the ability to do, if there's an assessment that they need that I don't have, I could usually put one together based on their need. So we customize our approach to what the environment is requiring.
I remember a really good friend of mine. He used to do the same thing, continuous improvement. The biggest thing is continuous improvement.
Yeah.
And he said what he would typically do is go into the break area. He would go into the break area and ask the questions of the people on the floor. He said that's where you get most of your honest truth.
It's really that he's onto it. It's interesting. We one of the customers I'm working with right now has had some ongoing issues for a couple of years, and I finally got them to understand the value of what I call the self-management success process.
Okay.
Now, the core of that is based on giving the people who are closest to the activity and responsibilities the goals that we want to achieve, and let them tell us how to do it, because they're doing the work. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever they want they're going to get, but guess what happens right to begin with? They feel a higher level of appreciation and respect because we valued them to that degree. It's kind of like one of the Dale Carnegie principles that I love is giving the person an excellent reputation to live up to. It works.
Yeah,
it really does
is
work.
real true.
So, but to respond to your question of assessments, we have, like I said, at least 7 to 10 that are very effective. They work well. And, as we get into more of these conversations, maybe later on we could break down the various assessments and talk about each one of them and what we gain from each of them.
I think we should. And definitely when people see this channel more, they can understand your mindset and your joy, the joy you have.
We have a good time.
Yeah, and I think the foundation of your of Journey Enhancement is backed up by biblical principles.
Here's
that is.
Let me expand on that a little bit. Very interesting the way that materialized. So, go back 15 years, about, and I put together a workbook called Life Skills Inside and Out.
Okay.
And it was in a loose leaf binder, and it was a collection of work over a period of time. And I thought it was pretty good. And so it just so happened that at the time, I had a friend of mine whose father-in-law was the senior editor-at-large for the Zondervan Publishing Company in Grand Rapids. So I asked him, I said, do you think we could get your father-in-law to review my material to see if it's any good? So we arranged for a meeting. And I went out to Grand Rapids with my wife, and it was my wife, myself, the senior editor-at-large and his wife, and then my friend and his wife. So we're having dinner, and he started looking at my material. And he was very quiet as he's going through it page by page. And I'm thinking, and I'm watching him do this for at least a half hour. And I'm not knowing, what do you do? What do I say? What's going on here? So finally I said, Jim, stop. I said, I just got to know, is the stuff any good? So this is what he said. He said, and at that moment, his wife said, did you know that Jim is Rick Warren's editor? Now, I don't know if you know who Rick Warren is, but he's a pretty famous Christian author and whatnot. And I thought at that point, I said, I'm dead. So he says to me, and I don't want to reveal this to sound, to give Rick Warren, to discredit him in any way, but he said the two things. He said, on a scale from 1 to 10, Rich, Rick is here. You, and I was 2 pegs above. And I thought, really? So now I'm scared. I'm not confident. I'm freaking scared. So I'm thinking, wow. And then the next thing he says, all of your work is scriptural, and you never quoted a verse. Now I'm challenged.
Yes.
Remember I told you I have really not good at reading the Bible. So I said to my wife on the way home, I says, honey, I have to start and go into this work scripturally and support everything with verse, which I have done.
Yeah.
And what it forced me to do from that moment on, everything I have is supported with scripture. And what guess the education I got in doing that. I mean, seriously, it was wonderful. So one of the things that I help when I'm helping the younger people, I tell them that story. And I said, I would like you to do the same thing. I would like you to put together a little notebook on how you think it's appropriate for you to behave and how you want to be effective in life. And then go find scripture that supports it.
Really
what
good.
A lesson, huh?
That is.
So out of that, by the way, out of that thinking, we'll talk about this at another event. I have a program that I put together called Growing in Christ.
Okay.
Growing in Christ came about, let's see, this was probably 10 years ago. I was working with a gentleman who had spent time in prison, And it turned out that he wound up going back to prison. And his wife called me one day, and she said, I have, my son's 13, Rich, and do you have anything that you could give him to help him at this point in his life? And I didn't have anything. So, but it gave me an opportunity to find something. So what I did at that moment, I sat down and I wrote a list of attributes that if a young person were to develop these attributes, it would be great. Now that process took me 20 minutes. That's the way God works with me. When he gives me something, it's like now, everything. Curriculum that we have to offer is what you're looking at on the table right there, which could go on for more than, could go on for a couple of years. So, there's so much that we put together. I think what the audience may appreciate the most is for us to dissect it piece by piece and have each conversation cover a different aspect of what we do and how we do it. And the other thing I would encourage that anyone who is listening to us get in touch with us so that if they would like to enjoy what we have to do live, we'll find a way to make that happen if they're seriously interested.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this is Journey Enhancement's channel. We Journey Enhancement YouTube channel. And we welcome you. And we're so glad that you stopped by just to hear us talk. And it's more dialogue and so much information. Rich has this binder right here full of information and goodies to help develop an individual, company, establishment, ministry, and to be successful. And I think that that's the whole key is I really believe it's a servitude to help others. Love thy neighbor as thyself, as the scripture says, And I think, number one, to love the Lord thy God with all thy mind, heart, soul, and strength, and to love thy neighbor as thyself. I think that's a very, very beautiful thing. And one of the things that kind of drove me to a point to hang around Rich a little bit more is to ask those questions. The questions why? The questions what, how, when, where? Those are very, very important for not only for my development, but the person that's asking those questions. I think is very, very.
We talk about confidant relationships. What's special about that is that they're usually done with people that have a very high level position in the organization and where they struggle to be transparent with the group of people that they're working with. They don't struggle to be transparent with me. And it is through that transparency at that relationship with me that they make discoveries that they might feel awkward about when they're dealing with the people in their regular environment. So, and that kind of sums it up. And what I would expect to happen, Ethan, is that when we meet again, we'll have something a little bit more specific to talk about. And I'm looking forward for people to engage with us and possibly send us questions that will provoke some good learning and good conversations. So I appreciate and value the time that you've given me in front of this audience, and I want to thank you for that.